On a cold Friday night in January of 2022, Boston police officer John O'Keefe met some friends at a local tavern in Canton, Massachusetts called C.F. McCarthy's. He got there around 7:30. At 9 o'clock, his girlfriend Karen Reed showed up. They stayed for a couple of hours, then went across the street to another local bar called The Waterfall. When the Waterfall closed at midnight, Brian Albert, a fellow officer, invited a group of people to his house for an after party. John and Karen got into Karen's car and headed there. When they arrived, prosecutors say John got out of the car and Karen purposely backed over him and left him in the cold to die. Karen has a much different story. She says John went inside, got ambushed, and the killers in the house framed her for his murder. Tonight, we are live from downtown Dedham, Massachusetts at the Dedham House of Pizza as we take a look at the morning after, when Karen finds John dead in the snow. What did Karen say? Did she confess to hitting John? Then we take a look at some of the evidence the defense claims is part of the cover-up. Is it enough? We'll break it all down as we continue our investigation into the tragic death of Boston police officer John O'Keefe.
I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us tonight here on Closing Arguments. We're live from downtown Dedham, Massachusetts at the D-Hop, the Dedham House of Pizza. Have been gracious enough to host us here this evening. And today, another big day inside the courtroom. It was a half day, but there was a lot of testimony and information about the morning of John O'Keefe's death, the morning that his body was discovered. But today I had the opportunity, and it's tough to get in there, but I made it inside the courtroom, and that is a small, small courtroom. It's a tiny courtroom, and there's two in this building. The first one that the case was in is enormous and is known for having and hosting big trials. But they moved, the defense wanted it moved so the jury could see the face of every witness who testified. So they're in a much smaller setting. And inside there, there's a different level of tension in a small courtroom when everyone is next to one another. And there's standing room only capacity. You've got the families catty-corner to one another, the jury right on top of the witness, the defense table, and the prosecutors right on top of one another. And you take all that, plus the securities that is there, the judge who's running a very, very tight ship, and it is just tension inside this tiny courtroom. Now, something else about the courtroom. I was in there today, so I had an ability to see and understand the dynamics inside. And the first thing you have to understand is that in many courtrooms, you need the microphone so you can hear everybody. That's not the case in this courtroom. Your phone vibrates. Everybody hears it. The door opens, you hear it. Radio communications coming over the communication system for the security officers, you hear it. Someone's stomach growls, you hear it. So there's a lot of focus, a lot of attention, and as much quiet as is possible. Even when they go to sidebar, right? And usually the judge goes to sidebar so nobody knows what's happening. I mean, you can hear them at sidebar. You can tell who's talking, the level of the volumes of their voices, because it is so tight inside that courtroom. The other thing I noticed inside was this jury. The jury's engaged. I call this the ping pong effect, where they will watch the question, take a look at the answer. Watch the question, take a look at the answer. But there was a slight difference when the prosecutor was asking the questions and when the defense was. And when the prosecutor's asking the question, a little less ping-ponging, more concentration just on the witness. And I'm a former prosecutor. That's kind of what you want, because you want your witness to tell the story. But when you're a defense attorney and you're cross-examining someone, you are supposed to be telling the story. And the jury was listening to that story because the heads all turned to the defense attorneys as they were asking their questions. prosecutor about half, and then they would go to the witness for the answer. So from where I was sitting, which is right in the middle of all of this, for the prosecution, their witnesses, it's getting through. The jury's paying attention. They've got their notebooks. For the defense, the jury's paying attention, not just to the witnesses, but to the questions as well. And today, a lot of the questions and the witnesses were all about the response that morning to the scene at the home where John O'Keefe was found on the lawn. So testimony from those first responders. So before we get to that testimony, I want to take you there and go through what happened in the moments leading up to that. Where was Karen Reed? When she left? How did she come back? Who was she with? Take a look. When Karen left, she headed to John's house because that's where she was staying. She got there, went to sleep. When she got up early, John wasn't there, so she grabbed John's niece's cell phone and called Jennifer McCabe at 4:53. At 5:07, Karen Reed gets into her SUV and backs out of the garage, and you can see on that video, does she or does she not hit John O'Keefe's car? Well, the defense says yes. From there, she goes to Jennifer McCabe's house. When she gets to Jennifer's, Kerry Roberts joins the group. Kerry, Jennifer, and Karen all get in the car. Kerry's driving, Karen's in the back seat, and they head over to the Alberts home. They get here at 6 o'clock in the morning. They park on this side of the street. Karen's in the back seat. She sees John O'Keefe's body right there on the yard. So in that video, you can see the chaotic scene, right? So today, the prosecutor calling firefighter after firefighter, EMT after EMT, all the folks who were responding to the scene and trying to get this jury to understand what Karen Reed was saying. Was she admitting to what they've accused her of, which is hitting John O'Keefe with her car? Let's take a listen.
Miss Reed was visibly upset. She kept saying, this is all my fault, this is my fault, I did this. And she was very hysterical. And she kept asking, he's dead, is he dead, is he dead?
You never once heard her say, I did it, correct?
I did not.
You never once heard her say, it's my fault, correct?
I did not.
You never once heard her say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, correct?
I did not.
As I was ventilating, I was able to ask, did anybody see anything? What happened? And there was one individual that replied several times, I hit him, I hit him.
She just repeated the phrase over and over again, I hit him, I hit him.
At no point in time did you ever hear her say, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, correct?
Correct.
Do you recall specifically what, if anything, that person said?
All I recall her saying was, is he alive?
When I asked her if there had been any significant trauma that happened before this.
What, if anything, did she say?
So she said, I hit him. She repeated it. There was a woman standing across from her who I believe at that point said, you're hysterical, you need to calm down, you're hysterical. She repeated, I hit him.
This is a big part of the prosecution's case. The words of Karen Reed, as heard or allegedly heard, depending upon who you believe here, by the first responders at the scene. I want to bring in Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson, who was also inside that courtroom today. Matt, so this series of first responders all saying, I heard I I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. I think 3 of them said that. What have we seen from the defense in response to these allegations that she's basically admitting to this?
Right, like this is so important, this key testimony, because you had first the police officers, one of them who testified that he heard that she had hit him, and then he recanted that when he was under cross. And you have that with this case where the cross is doing a very good job, the defense, in they're explaining that they didn't initially report this in their reports, or even at the hospital if they said that they heard it, you know, and that was a big
and this is
part of the
police
testimony
officers and firefighters, right? So police
all
officers,
the first responders,
right? You would expect them, like if someone just admitted to something, put it in the report, but admitting that he didn't put it in the report. Firefighters didn't either. Tell me about this. There was a moment with one of the firefighters today that sort of caught my attention. Right, where something we didn't necessarily expect to hear. Alan Jackson's cross-examining, who was it, Flamati, the lead guy. How did that go?
Well, you know, that was a big surprise to everyone in the courtroom. And when you have this such small courtroom and everyone is close together, these defense attorneys, they really belt out their voice. And this jury really pays close attention. And man, they put down their notebooks. I know you noticed it as well when this particular witness said that he actually didn't report what Karen Reed had told him, what he had just said on the stand. If we can play that right now.
You never relayed to a single doctor or a single nurse a single word about a woman who said, I hit him, did you?
So documentation for us ends at transfer of patient care. As far as my memory, I do remember relaying that information to the doctors and nurses.
You do?
Yes.
Have you ever testified about that, ever, previous to this?
Never been asked about that.
Oh, nobody ever asked you, so you didn't tell anybody?
In the court setting, no.
Testified in front of a grand jury, didn't you?
Yes.
Mr. Lally asked you a bunch of questions.
Yes.
During the course of that conversation that was under oath, did you ever disclose that you told the doctors and the nurses that you heard a woman say, I hit him?
I recall telling the doctors and nurses that there's a question of that the patient was hit by a vehicle or we don't know, is what I directly said to the doctors and nurses.
You directly told the doctors and nurses that there was a question about whether or not he was hit by a vehicle, right?
Yes.
Have you ever said that in any context, either to the police or in a grand jury before today?
I don't recall.
And you know, this is so important, and it was something that stood out, and it kind of surprised everybody that was in the gallery.
It shocked me.
And everyone in that jury box, and he made such a big moment about it because, you know, does it show that his story changed?
Right, and you're starting to see, I think, a defense theme that initially it's one thing, and then all of a sudden it's something else. And
8 or 9 days later, it's something else.
Now here, if I'm a juror, I want to hear from those doctors and nurses, right?
Yeah.
Bring them in. Did you hear that? Did you hear that? But I don't know if they're going to testify. But if I'm in the jury box, that's what I want to hear. Because right now, if that's the first time he's ever said it to anyone,
I know.
To anyone.
I'm really looking forward to seeing Jen McCabe and her other friend that was there too.
Yeah. A lot of folks here as well. Let's talk about Karen Reed's demeanor at the scene.
So her demeanor at the scene there, very different than what you're seeing in the courtroom. She is so calm and confident, walking a block and a half through the gauntlet of supporters that are shaking her hand and cheering Karen Reed as she's walking up the steps. Then you go inside the courtroom, again, calm and collected, very much a big part of her defense. She's writing down notes, she's showing that to her attorneys. But at the scene, wow, very different, and it's being described that she's hysterical. She's running back and forth. She's running on him. She has blood on her face because she was trying to initially give CPR.
CPR, yeah.
And then you have the first responders testifying different accounts of what she was saying. I hit him, or did I hit him, or, you know, is he alive? Here's some of their testimony.
She was really upset, correct?
Yes.
Would you go so far as to say she was distraught?
Yes.
Hysterical?
Yes.
Frantic?
Yes.
And you heard her say, he's dead, he's dead, something like that, correct?
Correct.
And she didn't say it in the tone of voice that I just said it, correct?
Correct.
She was screaming when she said that, correct?
Correct. She was screaming, is that my boyfriend? Is he dead?
And when you say screaming in a fairly loud voice, correct?
Very, very loud, yes.
And as far as that sort of phraseology, as far as is he dead, how many times was that something she said? Once, more than once, or something like that?
Repeated many times.
Now, as far as Ms. Reed, the defendant, is concerned, what, if anything else, did you observe as far as her saying or her demeanor or anything like that?
Just the screams and she was very distraught.
So, of course, Vinnie, you have the defense saying she loved this guy. She is hysterical because she didn't want him to die. She wanted him to be okay. And then they're also juxtaposition of that saying Jen McCabe turned her back and she's super calm in this very horrific moment.
Let's do this. I want to bring in another guest, Dr. Carol Lieberman, forensic psychiatrist, trial expert witness, columnist, on our show all the time. Dr. Carol Lieberman, I have a really important question for you. This demeanor, she's been described, and we see it in the video, hysterical, frantic, yet allegations that she's saying, I did it, I did it, I did it. From your perspective, is it possible that someone, and let's presume that they're telling the truth, that she said, I did it. Could someone say, I did it, who didn't do it, who's in a frantic state? Does that make any sense?
It doesn't really make sense. You know, what she said at the time of that, seeing her boyfriend, you know, in that condition and so on, that would be more real than what I think has happened is, I mean, because if you see, you drive up and you see your boyfriend, he's, you know, looks dead in snow and all of that. The first thing, if you didn't do it, you would think, who did this to my boyfriend? What happened here? But no, she said, I did it. So I think you have to believe that over anything else. Now, what I think has changed is that, you know, as the trial or as her case proceeded, you know, all these cheerleaders saying free Karen Reed and all of that, I think that gave her a kind of false sense of courage. And now perhaps she's even convinced herself that she didn't do it.
Well, let me ask you this, Dr. Carol Lieberman. If, in fact, now, let's look at the other part of the equation here, the people who are testifying. And I say this all the time because when I was a prosecutor, I had a lot of circumstantial cases, and I had to explain to jurors why circumstantial evidence is better than direct evidence, because direct evidence is usually eyewitness testimony, which is the most unreliable. How reliable would you think the testimony of first responders is, like remembering specific things that are said, whether it's I did it or did I do it, you know, subtle differences like that in a frantic situation where they're attempting to save someone's life? Could they make an honest mistake in a situation like that?
Well, yes, if it was one or two of them, but I think we heard from at least 4 of them who said that they heard her say, I did it, or words to that effect.
Dr. Carol Lieberman, we're out of time for tonight, but we appreciate you coming on. Always great to speak with you to get your insight. We will speak again. Matt Johnson.
Yes, sir.
It's amazing how early you got to get there to get in, right? Like,
You have to stand in line at 4 or 5 in the morning because there's only 10
and look how
designated
good he
seats.
looks tonight.
You were there with me.
3:30 in the morning, folks.
Yeah,
All right,
you were
Matt,
there
great
with
to
me.
see you. Thanks
Of
so
course.
much. All right, folks, when we come back, we got a lot more to get to. We are going to look at some of the evidence here. Does it show that Karen Reed was framed? Plus, coming up next hour.
In Boise, Idaho, the Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell on trial and facing the death penalty. We are live in Boise with all the big moments, including the testimony of the prophet's mother.
How would you describe Lori Vallow's personality and the manner in which she spoke with you?
Very friendly,
Okay.
very upbeat.
Persuasive?
Yeah.
is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
It's a controversial case that's divided a community.
Karen Reed is accused of murdering her police officer boyfriend.
Prosecutors say she ran him over on purpose and left him to die in the cold.
But Reed claims that she's being framed.
It smells suspicious.
After years of legal fireworks, will the truth finally be revealed?
The end game is to figure out who killed John O'Keefe and hold these people responsible.
The Killer or Cover-Up Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, only on Court TV.
Ow.
Karen Reed was framed. Her car never struck John O'Keefe. She did not cause his death. And that means that somebody else did. You will learn that it was no accident that John O'Keefe was found dead on the front lawn of 34 Fairview Road in Canton on January 29th of 2022. You will learn that at that address lived a well-known and well-connected law enforcement family in Canton, the Alberts. Because the Alberts were involved, and because they had close connections to the investigators in this case, Karen Reed was framed for a murder she did not commit.
Let me tell you, folks, that was one of the boldest opening statements from a defense attorney that I've seen in years. The last one was when I was down in Orlando many moons ago. I think it's like 10 years. It's more than 10 years. Whenever it was, I tried to erase it. When Jose Baez turned that trial upside down, David Unetti coming out and saying, Karen Reed was framed, period. So let's go through some of the evidence that we expect and some of the evidence that we've heard with our guests joining me here live in downtown Dedham at the Dedham House of Pizza, known as D-Hop. We've got Jennifer Brandt, family law attorney, who somehow strolled into New England from Philadelphia. Great to see you, Jennifer. Also with us, Kevin Mahoney, criminal defense attorney, a great one. Also the author of the book that every trial attorney needs to buy, needs to read, needs to memorize. It's called Relentless Criminal Cross-Examination. And perhaps we'll see some of that up here in Dedham. Thank you both for being here. So I want to go through some of this evidence, and I want you to tell me if you think it helps or is a tough sell as part of this Karen Reed was framed theme. So we'll go back to the opening statement, David Unetti here, talking about the lead investigator, Trooper Michael Proctor. Let's listen.
The lead state police detective who was assigned to this case was a man named Michael Proctor. Michael Proctor, you will learn, is one of the many people in Canton with deep ties to the Albert family. Michael Proctor's own mother refers to the Alberts as the Proctor's second family. Right from the jump, Michael Proctor predetermined the outcome of this case. You'll learn that one of Michael Proctor's high school friends commented to him that with a dead body on the front lawn, the homeowner in this case is surely going to catch a lot of grief. And do you know what Michael Proctor's response to that was? One word. Nope. During that thorough search of Brian Albert's front lawn, the number of pieces of taillight that were found by a minimum of 4 officers looking for evidence was 0. It was only later in the day, when the snow was really starting to accumulate, that the police miraculously started to find pieces of taillight on the property. The police only started to find pieces of taillight after Michael Proctor had seized Karen Reed's car.
All right, Kevin, Jennifer, I'll start with you. Is this a problem that the lead investigator, number one, saying never goes inside the home where the body's found, says it's not going to be a problem for the family, and then none of the pieces of taillight are found on that lawn until he seizes Karen Reed's vehicle?
I think it's absolutely a problem. I mean, not going into the home. He's doing the investigation. He doesn't go in. He doesn't talk to anybody. He doesn't want to know what happened. It seems that he had already had his mind made up. I mean, that's what it sounds like. Why else wouldn't he go in and ask some questions?
Kevin, is this a big problem?
No.
Why not?
The body's found right near the roadway. We have a defendant who has said to anyone who would listen that she's the one who ran him over. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. What was Michael Proctor supposed to do? He couldn't apply for a search warrant to get into the home. No clerk would sign off on that. That's not probable cause.
But wouldn't he be questioning other people? He's just going to take her word for it? He's going to say, okay, there's the body, and oh, she did it?
Well, she's got a cracked tail light. They got all the voicemails where she's screaming she hates him.
That's just a lover's quarrel.
I hope I don't have one of those quarrels anytime soon.
All right, let's get to another piece of evidence here. This is David Yannetti talking about, again, the investigators and whether or not they investigated this case fully. Take a listen.
The lead homicide investigators never went inside the Albert home that morning. You'll learn that Brian Albert's brother, Kevin Albert, is a Canton police officer. It was obvious very early on that the Canton police should not be investigating the death of a man found on the property of the brother of a Canton police officer.
Okay, what about the conflicts of interest here, Kevin? You've got a police officer in the home. His brother's a local police officer. There's a police officer dead on the lawn, and no one in the home is investigated. They never go inside.
But there didn't appear to be a conflict because it appeared to them right from the beginning that Karen Reed was admitting she hit him. So if she hit him and there's no relationship between her and Proctor, where's the conflict?
I think that you're, just for the very fact, what you said, they're all police officers. They all know each other. Wouldn't they want to be very thorough about it and make sure that it appears to be a thorough investigation of everybody involved, including other police officers?
All right, let's get to the next piece of evidence. This is Alan Jackson, cross-examination, taking a look at some video of one of the folks at the scene, a witness walking into the home. Take a look.
Yes. Walking toward the front of the house. Yes. That was Jennifer McCabe going into the house, wasn't it?
I have no idea.
Would you think that a witness at a homicide scene being allowed to go into a house to make contact with other witnesses?
I didn't know it was a homicide scene, sir.
If I could finish my question. Do you think it's appropriate for a witness at a potential homicide scene, an unconscious person scene, whatever, crime scene?
Yes.
To make contact with other witnesses and begin discussing the situation unsupervised?
Can you rephrase that question, sir?
Do you think that's an appropriate thing to have happen?
I have no answer for that, sir. I don't know what you're asking.
Officer Seraph, when you go to a crime scene,
yes, sir,
one of the first things that you'd want to do is secure the scene and separate witnesses so that interviews could be conducted, correct?
Sure.
You wouldn't want witnesses just cavorting together and getting their story straight, right?
Correct.
You'd want to avoid that at all costs,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And why is that?
So they can't collaborate their story.
All right, so you've got a witness who's outside, going inside. Is this a sloppy investigation, Kevin?
Not at all. What did she witness? She didn't claim she witnessed him being hit. She's just there with a person who's admitting she hit him. So there would be no reason to corral her and prevent her from talking to anybody else.
Jennifer, your thoughts?
She's at the scene, and there was a crime committed or something went on. There's a dead body there. You would want, and I think the investigator who testified said, I mean, you would want to talk to each person that was there individually, not let them talk to each other, to do a thorough investigation.
Now, another big part of this case are the pieces of tail light. Let's watch this part of David Yannetti's opening statement.
A good week after John O'Keefe's death, Canton Police Chief Kenneth Berkowitz, an older officer on the brink of retirement with probably not the best eyesight, someone he supposedly was driving, happened to be driving past Brian Albert's house. And by the way, Brian Albert is someone with whom Chief Berkowitz is also good friends. And this older man allegedly spotted yet another piece of taillight from his moving vehicle. This was yet another piece of taillight that was somehow missed by the trained specialists who had previously and thoroughly searched the property.
All right, Jennifer Brandt, are you comfortable with the chief or former chief a week later finding a big piece of the tail light?
Yeah, I think that's a little bit odd. I mean, it just, why wasn't it there before? Why didn't they see it before? A week goes by, that's a lot of time. And people are going around the crime scene, and all of a sudden, lo and behold, there's a piece of tail light. I think it's a little mysterious.
Are you bothered by it?
Not at all. If under this conspiracy, Proctor sprinkled the area with the broken glass, and all the conspirators know that, why would a conspirator go back and sprinkle more glass?
But you have to, how do you find something like that a week later? Didn't they look more carefully? I mean,
We got like 12 inches of snow. The snow melted.
All right, let's get to the final one. This one is interesting. Take a look here. There were perhaps a couple of phone calls or perhaps a couple of butt dials in the early morning hours. Let's take a listen to David Yannetti.
After people left the after-hours party at Brian Albert's house on January 29, Brian Albert claimed that he had no contact with anyone but his wife until he was woken up in the morning. But you will learn that he was ultimately confronted by the fact that his phone records revealed that he had actually placed a phone call to ATF agent Brian Higgins, his friend, the same friend who had been at his house earlier that night. And that was at 2:22 in the morning. You'll learn that Brian Higgins called him back 17 seconds later, and they connected for 22 seconds on their cell phones.
Okay, was this like an almost simultaneous double butt dial? Is that possible? Are they talking to each other?
I don't know if they were talking to each other, but if I was in a conspiracy to cover up a murder, I wouldn't be talking to anybody at that hour.
Okay, well, okay, but have you ever had a double butt dial?
I have not.
You have not. Have you?
No.
Have you ever heard of a double butt dial?
No.
Never. Okay. So do you think this could be a potential problem if you have the homeowner and someone who was in the house after people leave communicating after saying they didn't?
That's a bit of a problem.
That's a bit of a problem. Okay. He agreed on you there. He agreed at the end. You agree on something. All right. Your work is done. All right. Jennifer Brand, Kevin Mullaney, thanks so much. Great to have you. Mahoney, I'm sorry. Relentless criminal cross-examination. You got to tell us when your next trial is so we can watch some of that.
I will.
All right. Fantastic.
Thanks.
All right, folks, when we come back, tomorrow the jury's going on a view. We've already done ours. What are they going to look for? What will they see? We'll talk about that next.
.com.
So this is the house where the after party was, and you can see where it is, but where I want to take you is to where John O'Keefe was found that morning. Now, this is the area where I am. Right in here is where they say John O'Keefe was found on the ground, 6 inches of snow on top of him. Now, in the photos that we've seen in court, they've referenced certain pieces of the landscape here, including this flagpole that you can see. Now, behind me is where the bushes would have been. It looks like it's changed since then. The other thing they talk about is the fire hydrant, and the fire hydrant is right here. So it is within this area, just off the roadway, where John O'Keefe was found. Now, the one question that I've been wondering about, because prosecutors are talking about Karen Reed's car going 24 miles an hour in reverse over the course of 62 feet. Now, 62 feet, she wouldn't be coming this way because this road is not 62 feet wide. She would have to be down this way 62 feet. And I stepped it off before, and it's pretty close to where this tree is on the neighbor's yard. So she would have had to have gone that distance in reverse and somehow struck John O'Keefe, sending him into this area. And the question is, does that make sense? Under what circumstances would she drive off and then come back and hit him? That's the prosecution theory, as far as I can tell from what they've said inside the courtroom. So as I'm here at the home, that's the one thing that really strikes me, is what exactly happened. Where was she going, and did she come back to strike John O'Keefe and kill him on purpose? Welcome back. We are live in downtown Dedham, Massachusetts at the D-Hop Dedham House of Pizza. The place is packed. The food is awesome. And we're taking a look at what's happening in the trial that's just down the street from here. I want to bring in my guest. Joining me right now, Kevin Lenahan, YouTube creator, Yellow Cottage Tales is with us, as well as Nick Rocco, who's a Karen Reed supporter and expert, of course. All right, so we've all been to the scene. I told you what I thought when I first got there. First time at the scene, what struck you, Kevin?
What struck me, you know, when I was first driving there, you could see where it would be difficult for someone to see at night coming from that other direction where Karen and Jen and Carrie came from. It is a little bit of a challenge. You wonder how Karen was able to see it so well.
Your first impressions when you got to that scene?
It's a really small street. I think people are under the impression that that is a straight road. There's a curve exactly where John O'Keefe's body was found. So if she had been backing up, she would have hit that curb exactly where it turns. So no damage to the tires. It's pretty interesting.
Okay, so let's do this. The prosecutor is very specific, and it seems like they have some evidence about data connected to Karen Reed's car. Take a listen.
Based on its known locations and travel, he cycles and essentially opines, he'll opine that around 12:45 in the morning, when the vehicle was in front of the residence on Fairview, that for some perceptible period of time, that vehicle travels over 60 feet in reverse at over approximately 24.2 miles per hour.
24 miles an hour, 60 feet in reverse, okay? Now, I went there, I'll show you one more time, because I went there, I went in reverse. I didn't go 24 miles an hour. I went much slower than that, but just to give you a little bit of idea, take a look. All right, I'm gonna back up. I'm gonna go between 3 and 4 miles an hour. So that was about 60 feet. Now, we sped it up so it would be closer to 24 miles an hour. You can take a look at that. Still with me are Nick Rocco and Kevin Lenahan. You know, when I look at this, how could it have been done, Kevin? Which way is her vehicle facing? Where is she going? Is she driving away, stopping, and then saying, I'm going to murder him, and cranking it in reverse?
Well, we know they were arguing, right? But we don't know exactly what happened there. But there's witness testimony that I think some people might be a little bit confused on. I'm just speculating a little bit here. But the truck that was behind them, that had Ryan Nagel as a passenger in it, that testified, he testified to seeing them stop in front of the driveway briefly and then pull forward to the far end of the property. So what I speculate happened, so then later on inside the house, Jen McCabe and Matt McCabe from the window saw the vehicle, what they thought was pulling forward. But the times don't really make sense, because the times that they spotted it seemed to be later, based on when Jen McCabe was texting John, are you here, and pull up. So what I think happened was she left, went a certain distance away, and then in a rage, hit the gas, went back, struck him, and then she got back to somewhere around the driveway, stopped for a moment, and then pulled forward to check on John. And I think that's what Matt and Jen McCabe saw from the window.
Well, does any of that make sense to you?
There's an issue with that, because Matt McCabe states that he's staring out the window and he sees a V-shaped tire marks in the snow, indicating she did a three-point turn. But now the Commonwealth is saying, no, she threw the car in reverse at 62 feet. Now, don't forget, it's a little bit snowy out, and they're claiming she is out of her mind drunk. You can't drive straight after 9 drinks. How is she going to drive straight, completely straight backwards, and hit John after being as drunk as they claim she is? She's not a NASCAR driver.
So how does his body end up exactly where it is? What direction is her car going?
I think the car, now of course we have to see what the state says with their accident reconstruction experts, but I think it probably clipped him here, with enough force to send him back onto the lawn where he ended up 6 to 12 feet.
And what I
off the
heard in his opening statement, though, he said that it struck him and then hit him again when he was on the ground. So she would have had to have continued. And I'm wondering, did she continue onto the lawn? And was there anything on the lawn that indicated that an SUV had been there?
I haven't seen anything. You know, we haven't got to that part of the trial yet, and nothing's been in the public record that they've gone forward yet on.
Now, let's get back to your first point. Let's take a listen to the prosecutor again talking about another big moment, because the jury's going here tomorrow. So what are they going to be looking for? What do they want to know about the scene when they go for this jury view? Here's the prosecutor talking about when Karen Reed, the following morning, spots John O'Keefe on the lawn.
The defendant is the only one who sees Mr. O'Keefe. He yells and screams at Ms. Roberts to stop the vehicle. Ms. Roberts and Ms. McCabe, I anticipate, will testify that they did not see Mr. O'Keefe, not only as they were driving past him, but even after they got out of the vehicle, until the defendant gets out of the back seat and makes a beeline essentially right over to where Mr. O'Keefe's body is found.
All right, so Kevin, I know you think it doesn't make sense, that it'd be tough. What do you think? How does she see him coming from that direction from the back seat?
The same way that the paramedic who was sitting in the passenger side said he saw a shadow figure, body laying on the lawn. I mean, when Karen Reed arrives on the scene, she's in the back seat. She's actively looking for John. You have a driver in a snowstorm. They're saying it's a blizzard.
They're going to be looking forward.
She's paying attention. She's not crashing her car. That road is narrow. So if another car is coming down that road at that time, you got to be careful of what you're doing. So Karen is actively looking for John. So when you're looking for something, you're going to find it.
Well, the ambulance driver, by the time they were coming, there were police cruisers there. There were figures surrounding John. So you saw the police cruiser had his spotlight on the scene. So they were coming into a very different scene. But if you look at the first cruiser that arrived, it's amazing how dark it is. Even though we know with hindsight that the women are there over John, you still can't spot them. It's almost impossible to see.
Are you learning anything from these videos? We only have like 10 seconds left. Have you learned more from watching the videos in court?
Not really, because everyone's testimony is saying the same thing. She's frantic. She found her boyfriend dead on the lawn. Nobody else was showing emotion. And, you know, show me the camera from across the street. It's the only way I'm going to believe it, Vinny.
What camera?
The deputy chief of police.
Okay.
Across the street. Camera on his house. Yeah. If she did it, it's there. But they didn't provide it.
Kevin Lenihan. Yeah, I know. Show us the video. Kevin Lenihan, great to have you both here. We'll be speaking again, obviously. When we come back, folks, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight. Plus, coming up next hour. A New Jersey father is accused of abusing and murdering his 6-year-old son. Tonight, we'll take you to the courtroom for the emotionally charged testimony. Everyday people, just like you, accused of the unthinkable.
He needed to eliminate this person. This is, in fact, a murder.
Accomplice to Murder returns with an all-new season.
I know the manipulation. I know the lies.
Taking you beyond the ringleaders.
This is somebody he trusted.
And into the heart of the case.
They were in this together.
Accomplice to Murder with Vinnie Politan. All-new season premieres Sunday night, 8/7 Central.
Only on Court TV. Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's go back to the studio, take a look at the big board, and see what we have tonight. And yes, there he is, the accused Idaho killer, back in court today, going back and forth, unbelievable bickering. We've got a statement from one of the families. Discovery. You have what we want. No, I don't. Yes, you do. No, I don't. The family's getting absolutely fed up with the bickering in court. We'll stay on top of it. In the meantime, we are live from the D-Hop, the Dedham House of Pizza, bringing you more in their coverage of the Karen Reed murder trial. In Dedham, Massachusetts, Karen Reed is accused of murdering her boyfriend, Boston police officer John O'Keefe. Did she act like a murderer the morning after? We'll take a closer look.
What, if anything else, did you observe as far as her saying or her demeanor or anything like that?
Just the screams and she was very distraught.
Then the victim, John O'Keefe, was found wearing just one shoe. What does that mean? And where is the other shoe?
The notable observation that I made was that he was missing one shoe, his right shoe.
In Boise, Idaho, the Doomsday Prophet Chad Daybell on trial and facing the death penalty. We are live in Boise with all the big moments, including the testimony of the prophet's mother.
How would you describe Lori Vallow's personality and the manner in which she spoke with you?
Very friendly,
Okay.
very upbeat.
Persuasive?
Yeah.
On the docket tonight in Ocean County, New Jersey, a father accused of abusing and murdering his 6-year-old son. Is the prosecution winning this case?
Corey was 6 on April 2nd, 2021, when his father murdered him.
Get ready. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us. We are live in downtown Dedham, Massachusetts at the D-Hop, the Dedham House of Pizza. Just up the block is where Karen Reed is being tried for the murder. And that's an important word here. The murder of Boston police officer John O'Keefe. This is a case where they allege the murder weapon is her SUV. But it's not vehicular homicide. It's not manslaughter. It's murder. They're saying she did it on purpose. She struck him with her SUV. He's laying in the cold. A blizzard is coming. She knows it, and she leaves him there to die. That's the prosecution's case. So here's the question I have tonight. Does Karen Reed act like a murderer? Does she sound like a murderer? Let's begin with what it's like when she shows up to court for her murder trial. Take a look. Does she look like a murderer there? Does she act like a murderer there? To me, these are important questions. We've covered so many trials through the years, and I've never seen what we are seeing here in Dedham, Massachusetts. Now, I want to go back about 1 year ago on the courthouse steps. The press was there. Karen Reed, her attorneys were there. Take a look at what happened.
Some suspicions, but we don't know. No, Karen's not going to talk right now. Thank you.
She just said something, and I think she might have something she wants to say.
Said it feels we're the only ones fighting for the truth of what happened to John O'Keefe. And me and my family and my attorneys and my team have marshaled every resource to get to the truth. Just feels like no one else wants it.
Karen, just to be clear, you didn't do it.
We know who did it, Steve. We know. And we know who spearheaded this cover-up. You all know.
Yes, we do. And no, she didn't do it. No, she didn't do it. This is an innocent woman. She didn't do it.
I tried to save his life. I tried to save his life at 6 in the morning. I was covered in his blood. I was the only one trying to save his life.
Does she sound like a murderer? Is she acting like a murderer? Let me bring in my guests joining me tonight. Rick Grundy, great attorney. Last trial I covered here in Norfolk County, he was the prosecutor. Yes, he won the case. Also with us, Ed Ryan, criminal defense attorney, also president of the bar. Was the president of the bar. Okay. So let me ask you, Rick, does she sound like a murderer? Does she act like a murderer? Walking into court, talking to the media on the steps.
So I have a lot of respect for the jurors. Jurors always accept the integrity of what they're doing, especially in a case of this nature and depth. She doesn't act like a murderer. She doesn't look like a murderer. But if I were her counsel, I would say tone it down a little bit because she looks like a celebrity. Let's go to the nuts and bolts of the case, though. When I was with you for the first night, you remember our first night together?
I remember it. I'll never forget it.
Memorable?
I'll never forget it.
I said, you know, I feel that they've overcharged her with the second-degree murder. Does she look like her actions as they're described at the scene, do they come across as somebody who intentionally murdered somebody? No, they don't. Do they come across as a person who was drunk to the point where they don't remember, quote, being on the street that night, where they had an argument with their boyfriend, where they purposely put it in reverse, got home, basically passed out, blackout drunk, woke up and started trying to put pieces together and get there and find their boyfriend in the snow and said, I hit him, I hit him. Yes, she does look like that.
But that's not a murderer.
But that's not a murderer.
What do you think, Ed? From what you're, the way she's entering the courthouse every day here, the way she's exiting the courthouse, what she says, how she acts, does she look like a murderer?
First of all, I've had about 40 or 50 murder cases in my career, at least. I don't know what a murderer looks like in all that time. What I am seeing here is somebody who is confident, who is reacting to a crowd that obviously supports her. The smiling and the rest of it is a reaction to the crowd. I don't think it bears much resemblance to what's about to go on in the courtroom.
Now, have you ever seen anything like this, though?
Sure I have.
You have?
The O.J. Simpson case was a circus. I've seen many defendants. Trump, every day we're greeted by Trump.
He's not accused of murder. He's not accused of murder.
He may not be, but it's the same principle.
I got you.
Many defendants decide, for whatever reason, they want to take a silent position. Other defendants, this case is high profile. She's got high profile lawyers. I think I agree with Rick that she shouldn't be talking outside the courthouse. But no, I don't think she's acting like a murderer. I think she's acting like somebody with some confidence. You know, this case is a horror show. I have never, in my almost 50 years of experience, seen a case where the police fouled up so bad. I could write a 3-credit course in criminal justice on what not to do. They didn't protect the crime scene permanently. There should have been protection for that alleged crime scene from the moment the first police arrived. Then we have the conflicts of interest, unaddressed. If I were the district attorney, that case would have gone to the attorney general the moment I heard about these conflicts. Because you know, when you're preparing a case, that's great fodder in the crucible of cross-examination to destroy the credibility of a police investigation. But they've done a good job of that themselves. They take a statement, which they claim is a confession, an admission. I hit him, I hit him, I hit him. It doesn't make it into the police report. 7 witnesses, 3 hear it or 4 hear it, 3 don't hear it. Are you kidding? That's the building blocks for reasonable doubt. But the entire investigation really is
problematic. Beyond problematic. A horror show is what you're calling it.
The first responders, the firemen.
There they are.
Their job is to attend to the victim. They're not investigators. So whatever they think they heard her say, there was no follow-up. But you know what should have happened? She should have been interviewed on the spot by a police officer. Every one of those firefighters should have been interviewed by a police officer. And quite frankly, every interview should have been tape recorded, as opposed to a question is asked, an answer is given, and then it's filtered through the mind several days later of an investigating officer.
Let's take a look now. That's outside the courthouse. That's on the courthouse steps. Does she look, sound, and act like a murderer at the scene? Let's take a look.
It appeared that Karen Reed was doing mouth-to-mouth on John O'Keefe.
You saw, I don't want to get too graphic, but you saw blood on her face?
Yes, I did.
You saw blood on his face?
That's correct.
You saw blood in her hair?
No, I didn't see anything.
You didn't notice that?
No, I didn't notice that.
Okay. But certainly blood on her face from having engaged in some sort of CPR activity?
Yes.
Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, you said?
It looked like it, yes.
It was the woman who had the blood around her mouth who appeared to be most upset, correct?
Correct.
She was really upset, correct?
Yes.
Would you go so far as to say she was distraught?
Yes.
Hysterical?
Yes.
Frantic?
Yes.
And you heard her say, he's dead, he's dead, something like that, correct?
Correct.
And she didn't say it in the tone of voice that I just said it, correct?
Correct.
She was screaming when she said that, correct?
Correct.
You did notice that she was absolutely hysterical.
Yes.
She was completely distraught.
Yes.
She appeared to be in shock.
Yes.
The descriptions are very consistent and pretty clear, and I think consistent with what we're seeing in the dash cam videos. I want you to take a listen to Canton Officer Stephen Mullaney here, because this is like the next level of hysterical.
What, if anything, were you advised by your dispatch in regard to Miss Reed?
We were dispatched that, or Canton Control had advised us that she's making suicidal statements.
And so based on that, what, if anything, did you or the other officers that you were on scene with do at that point?
I don't recall exactly who, but someone had called Miss Roberts to have Miss Reed come back to the scene, and we Section 12'd her.
We Section 12'd her. They said she was suicidal at the scene. So what are your thoughts here, Rick, on the way she's acting at the scene, the way she's described? Is she acting like a murderer?
Again, not a murderer. I think it's one of those things that can be argued from both sides. But here comes in a crucial point with respect to opening statements. People start to form their opinions. And once you have a little bit of a leaning one way or the other, you hear things in a certain way. So
let me just tell you this, though. I've covered a lot of trials, and whenever the accused shows no emotion when their spouse or loved one is dead, they get hammered. They get hammered on our air by guests, they get hammered on social media, and they get hammered by the jury and the prosecutor. This is the opposite of that.
It is. It is. And again, I think it folds in fine with a drunken, negligent outrage. It doesn't fold in fine with a purposeful act.
A couple of points here. First of all, that officer's not qualified to make the call on a Section 12. He's not a psychiatrist. He's not a psychologist. They didn't run her through a suicide protocol at all. And so what did they do? They lock her up. They isolate her. They isolate her from family, friends, and any lawyer that she might want to call, or anyone she might want to call for advice. Two, they undermined anything she might have said to anyone at that moment. Because if she was in a state of such shock that she was actually suicidal, there's no credibility that anything come out of her mouth. And those statements, I would suggest, ought to be thrown out because they're not voluntary.
So you're talking about the alleged statements that I did it.
Or I hit him. Either one. Whatever version you want to believe
exists. If you're
exists,
suicidal, then it's not reliable, is your argument.
I think there's a real problem there. Is she admitting to something? And by the way, I hit him. What's the context of that statement? She should have been sat down and interviewed on tape, on the spot. She wasn't under arrest. They didn't have to advise her of her rights. Could you amplify on what you just said? If they couldn't calm her down to a point where she can intelligently do it, give a statement there, we'd like you to come back to the station and talk to us. That's done all the time. But the police dropped so many balls in this case. I don't know how a jury can get beyond these mistakes and come to a conclusion beyond a reasonable doubt.
Let me ask you another question about the area here. Why don't we have body cameras? I cover trials all over the country. Almost everybody's got a body camera now. Why don't we have them here?
Oh, it's the Canton Police Department. The state police is supposed to have body cams. But when you look at the incestual relationships in this case, I'm surprised they even wrote reports. And, you know, a police report, and I'm sure you'll agree, police officers do not write anything good that a defendant does or says, only the bad. And my best cross-examinations have been what's not in the police report, from a drunk driving case all the way up to a murder case. In my mind, there is simply no excuse for what was done in this case and how it was handled. And that tainted this entire prosecution. I actually feel bad for the prosecutor.
So what do you think the jury's seeing right now, Rick? Do you think the jury, as they're watching this stuff, listening to this testimony, do you think they're forming the opinion that this is a murderer or is not a murderer? At this early stages.
Yeah.
Like,
so
what's like the vibe that they're getting?
I think we have a very difficult time in filtering what we're just seeing out from everything that we've heard.
Right.
And if I try to
we know a lot.
Right. And if I try to put myself in the place of a juror and they genuinely, this is what I'm hearing for the first time, I think they don't even know yet what the elements of murder are.
That's true. That's true.
But I don't think they're sitting there thinking, yeah, she did this intentionally.
All right, let's take a listen to this now. So we had before, right? We had the scene. We had before court. Let's take a look at what she said, because you won't see her. She's kind of hidden behind the computer screen because someone was finally wearing a body camera. This is after she's arrested the second time and charged with murder. Again, does she sound and act like someone who is a murderer?
And you were indicted by Granger.
Okay, you're aware he was beaten up by Brian Colin Albert. I mean, we're all in on the same joke, right? My tail light was cracked and John was pulverized.
All right, does that sound like a murderer?
Boy, you know, again, if I put myself in a vacuum, I think I could go either way on that.
Okay.
She's just been told she's indicted?
Just been told she's indicted for murder.
She's not hysterical now?
No, she's not hysterical.
She's not, oh my God, what are you crazy?
No, she's calling it a
out
joke.
there a definitive, this is who killed her. These two individuals killed him.
That's what she said.
My own view is if it were my client at that point, I might have strangled her myself, okay?
This is the dean.
Right,
That was just inappropriate. I don't know if her lawyer was there with her or what lawyer was there with her, but at an arraignment, a client should be prepared for what's coming. Now, in a murder case, they generally hand the indictment. The client gets that in advance. They know they're charged with murder. The arraignment is not a time to assert a defense.
That's not even an arraignment. She's just being brought in and processed at that point. Let's do this. We've got to take a break. We've got a lot more to get to. When we come back, we're going to talk about the shoe. A lot of testimony today about John O'Keefe, the victim in all this, wearing just one shoe.
We are underway in the trial of doomsday prophet Chad Daybell.
Prosecutors say they will seek the death penalty against him.
Investigators have recovered human remains at Chad Daybell's residence.
There's no way, Logan. I can never come up with this.
His wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, has already been convicted.
Now, will her husband end up with the same fate?
It's just so hard to know where the truth ends.
It's the doomsday prophet, Chad Daybell, on trial. Shoes still on his feet. You have the body in the middle of the road, right on the line. And normally you would assume that if a vehicle struck a person, he would glance off in one direction or the other. And even my experience as a paramedic would show you that the shoes would fly off. If he had a phone loosely in his pocket, that might bounce out of his pocket, depending on how fast the vehicle was traveling when it struck him and depending on the significance or the angle of the blow.
When I was covering the case of Stephen Smith down in South Carolina, a young man who was found dead in the road. I was bringing on experts, and they were saying, well, it didn't look like he was hit by a car because his shoes were still on. And that was the first time I'd ever heard that the victims of people who are struck by cars, oftentimes their shoes will come off. Well, let's now talk about Officer John O'Keefe. The allegation is that he was struck by a car, and we've heard a lot of testimony about what was and was not on his feet. Take a listen.
Do you recall how Mr. O'Keefe was dressed when you first get over there?
I believe he was wearing a hoodie, like a sweatshirt and jeans, and remember he had one shoe on, but forget which shoe it was.
You don't recall which shoe it was, but there was one shoe on his foot at that point?
Correct.
As far as his clothes, what, if any, observations did you make of his clothes?
The notable observation that I made was that he was missing one shoe, his right shoe.
You were standing next to the body.
Yes.
And you were obviously looking around. You noticed some footprints.
Yes.
And you even noticed some lack of footprints.
That's correct.
So you were being observant of the area of the body
Yes.
and the area adjacent to the body.
Yes.
You were looking for anything that might have been out of place?
Yes.
Anything of any evidentiary value, correct?
Yes.
You never located or otherwise observed John O'Keefe's missing shoe?
No.
And what also stuck out in your mind is that he had only one shoe on, correct?
Correct.
From your memory, you're not sure if it was the left or the right shoe, but it was one of those, correct?
Correct.
And you did not see another shoe or the matching shoe in the area anywhere around where he was lying, correct?
Correct.
And to your memory, you never saw that other shoe, correct?
Correct.
His clothes do matter, but it's on the list of priorities, not huge. So by the time we figured out he was missing one of his shoes, we were already at the hospital at that point.
Would that be something that would have been removed by one of you or one of the other firefighters while he was on the ground?
If it would have been removed, both of them would have been removed. To assess that, it wouldn't do much good to just remove one and leave it there on scene.
So it's clear. I mean, it is super clear that John O'Keefe only had one shoe on his feet. So a couple of things come to mind. And if you're in that jury box, you're like probably waiting for the next shoe to drop. Like, where is the shoe, number one? And what does it mean? Because remember, prosecutors are saying he's struck by Karen Reed's SUV outside, and the defense is saying, no, something happened inside the house and his body was moved. So let's get some more perspective on this. Rick Grundy, Ed Ryan still with me. Rick, is this a big deal? And what does it mean that he's only wearing one shoe?
So we talked earlier on another evening about how we've heard so much on this case, from phone records that are going to put Officer O'Keefe in the house, to walls being taken down, dogs, etc. And I think smartly they scaled that back. We didn't hear about that stuff in the openings. We may still hear about it in evidence. But you scale it back to those things that are just kind of irrefutable. And I think the shoe is absolutely huge. There's no easy way out for the prosecution on that. The man is missing his shoe. Obviously, you scoured the area looking for that shoe, and you didn't find it. If you say you didn't scour the area, well, there's just another building block for a horrible police investigation. So where is the shoe? And without having to say any more, the jurors' minds are going to go to that house.
That the shoe is in the house. What do you think?
Oh, the shoe could be in the house, but look, there's a lot more than just the shoe. What was the condition of the shoe that they found? How many laces was it? Was it tied or not? He doesn't even know whether it's the right or left shoe. What kind of a police investigation is that? It's pathetic. Pathetic. I'll tell you something else about the body. When you're hit by a car, the car leaves track marks on the body. They should have grabbed the clothes. They should have examined them for track marks. They should have a theory. What part of the vehicle actually struck him? A tail light? Well, where were the wheels? If he got run over, you're going to have some evidence of that. Is there any grit or sand or anything of that nature that were in the clothes on the body? Any marks on the clothing of the body? Have they even examined the clothing? We haven't heard a word of that.
Not yet, but they're going to say tiny fragments of the tail light are going to be in some of that clothing
tiny
or the
fragments
body.
of a tail light. I mean, they had people snow blowing with the blowers looking for this stuff. Again, I go back to my original hypothesis.
Well, where do you think the shoe is?
Well, the shoe could be in the house.
Is that the natural place to go? Like, if the shoe is never found, is never produced, is the most reasonable inference or most logical place that it's in the house?
Well, they're certainly going to argue that it's in the house or behind the house or was taken. Maybe they drag him out if he's unconscious. He loses the shoe in the yard. Maybe they pick it up and throw it back in the house. Maybe they throw it in the woods. Who knows what they did with it? Well, what anyone did with it. What we do know is it is a glaring hole in the police investigation of this house.
The seed has been planted that he was in the house. There's a shoe missing. The Commonwealth isn't going to have an alternative explanation. The mind
Well,
goes
what
to
do
the
they
house.
say? They have to say something. What are they going to say?
They may say nothing.
Are they going to blame it on the snowplow?
Pulled away with the snowplow?
The most likely argument that they make at some point is it's a red herring.
But it's not, because he's not wearing one shoe.
But that's what they may argue.
He was out. They probably have video of him with two shoes on inside.
All of these tidbits are like strings on a clothesline. And at the end of the case, the defense is going to tie all of that up in a cohesive argument. And the defense is going to tell that jury, you've heard this case. You know what the mistakes are. You know what the gaps are in the evidence. This is reasonable doubt.
I think the shoe is bigger than the Google. Because the Google's going to be experts, and they've got an expert that works, I think, for the company that wrote the program. So that, even if that's a wash, it's not really a win-win.
Yeah.
The shoe, though, the shoe.
The shoe,
I
and
agree.
the other thing that's going to be real important is the pathology. You know, the medical examiners in Massachusetts work for the state police.
Right.
They're not independent scientists, which they should be. I've argued for years that the medical examiner's office should be completely independent, its own authority, scientists investigating deaths, not given police reports that get one side of the case, and they conduct no investigation. One of my murder cases, the medical examiner said the guy died of a brain swelling. We had a neuropathologist examine the brain. That was an outright lie, a lie. They took that case from murder to manslaughter. It was a fight. What happened?
Another one of your victories.
Yeah.
He's on a roll. Hey, great to have you tonight. Ed Bryan, Rick Grundy, I appreciate your insight and your valuable time as well. And hopefully you'll come back on again and again and again.
Yeah, happy to do so.
Pleasure.
Just ask.
Fantastic. All right.